Hello, and welcome to the new production of the California Film Institute's education program show. We call it CFI Education, and we call the show Aspect Ratio. Tonight's our first magazine format show. The magazine format will run once monthly and feature news, comedy, interviews, and reviews of films, filmmakers, and all kinds of things, movies in the Bay Area. This monthly magazine format will alternate with shows during CFI's Mill Valley Film Festival in October, featuring longer interviews with national, international, and even local filmmakers, of which we have plenty. We'll also do the same with special shows at CFI's Christopher B. Smith Raffel Film Center and with CFI Education's many programs. I got a secret to tell you, though. Actually, this isn't my desk. I was inspired by Walt Disney's desk when he introduced Wonderful World of Disney. Might look familiar to some of you. But let's be honest. I'm no Walt Disney, and this is my desk. But I like to think that Walt Disney's real desk was this messy. Aspect Ratio is a production of a number of young producers, many of them first time. It's a veritable hotbed of talent and enthusiasm. I really hope you enjoy it.
My name is Anthony Garcia. My friends know me as a movie fanatic. I love traveling to where some of my favorite movies were filmed. This is On Location. So I'm thumbing through the classic movie channels when Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo pops up. After a quick computer search, I find my destination. So I set forth on my journey to Mission San Juan Bautista to walk in the footsteps of one of America's greatest directors. The drive on Highway 101 is gorgeous. Hitchcock and Company must have drawn on this scenic drive for inspiration. And, as an added bonus, if you roll your window down, you can smell the aromatic eucalyptus trees. I completed that scenic drive. I finally made it on location in beautiful San Juan Bautista. Now let's go check out the stables, the hotel, and find out what other people think about this place. All right, so I'm here with Marcos, senior parquet here at the Mission, and we're going to ask him a couple questions, and maybe he can fill us in on a little bit of the history.
Hi. Well, in terms of the film of Vertigo here at the Mission San Juan Bautista and San Juan Bautista State Historic Park, the scene where Kim Novak is talking to Jimmy Stewart inside the stable, that was actually shot in this stable right there. Wow. And those two doors are flanked open right now. And we still have an old prop from the film. It's a big papier-mâché horse. And then once they were done, they just left it here, and it's been part of our collection ever since.
Now, are people allowed to climb on the horse or the buggy?
No, all of our buggies and artifacts are behind a railing, so you can view them, but you're not allowed to touch them.
Okay. You know, I noticed here, I came in, one of the things I was very disappointed was I don't see a tower. Where is that tower? It seems to be missing.
Yeah, well, the situation with the tower was an old tower that had recently torn down because they tore it down for termite damage. So that's the one thing he had to recreate in a Hollywood studio. Everything else, though, was shot here.
Those pesky termites, right? Undo us all. As I head into the stables, where Ranger Marcos suggested I play with the props, I meet Rennie Haig and Roger Freed, who fill me in on what to do while at Mission San Juan Bautista.
Well, Roger and I are both from Iowa. He's lived in California most of his life, and we met at our 55th class reunion. And
3 years ago.
3 years ago, and he invited me out to see California, and here I am. It's beautiful. I love it. Everybody should come to California and see it once in a lifetime. Come out and enjoy the pepper trees and eat a little pepper. It's really hot. We are going to go to the Mission, check the Mission out. Beautiful roses over there. And if you come here, you can also walk in the path. I know John Wayne has been here. I haven't seen him. And I haven't seen Jimmy Stewart, but I'm sure he's been here. It's really a beautiful place to come.
Sure is.
Yeah, and memories can be made here. Just come out, enjoy, and bring your camera with you and a bottle of water and spend an hour or two.
So I'm gonna go over here and check out this old-fashioned blacksmithing. Follow me while I ring the bell for some service. I meet the local blacksmith, who is on loan from Texas.
I'll just give this a little bit of a squeeze while we're talking. Well, this is a really historic little town, and it never really got hit by urban blight up until mechanical things started taking over. At the turn of the century, we had what they called crank bellows, where you could crank it like that. And then, of course, I am not the regular blacksmith. I'm just passing through. My wife and I travel full time, and we like to stop in blacksmiths when we can.
Now, in your expert opinion, what would be my shoe size?
Oh, let's see. I'd say about a 9. Oh, anything else you want to know that I might know?
As I exit the stables and overlook the mission, I am reminded of the scene where Kim Novak runs across the lawn to the no longer existing tower. So I had a wonderful time here at Mission San Juan Bautista. Make sure to tune in again to see where I'm on location next.
I like being near the water. I like sort of the active lifestyle. I have 2 kids. It's a great area for kids. Beaches, Mount Tam, take the ferry to the city. There's just a lot of fun stuff to do.
This is the place to live. This is the weather's great. Everything is right here. You have the beach. You have the trails. You have plenty of people with kids and dogs, and the schools around here for kids are excellent. It's safe. You know, this is the place to be.
It's absolutely beautiful. You're in this beautiful valley. It's small town. It also has some elements of a bigger town. You're 20 minutes from San Francisco. It's never too hot, never too cold. It's just really perfect.
I love the community. It's like a great escape from San Francisco. It's beautiful. We can step outside, go biking, so we love it here.
The weather, the beauty, the people. There's quite a bit.
It's gorgeous. The bay, the excellent, food that we have here. People that take such great pride in the environment and where we live and how we eat and the activities that we have.
I like the family aspect, the culture, the community of restaurants and family events that make Mill Valley really a special place.
It's an opportunity to express yourself however you do. There's a lot of tolerance here, and it's artful and beautiful, and the weather is just my cup of tea.
It's home. This is home. Right. It's a fabulous place to live. There's all kinds of activities, hiking, biking. It's beautiful. Look at this day.
Everything's pretty likable. Weather, climate, culture, people. Pretty good.
Hello, we're sitting here with Cynthia Pepper, whose name just always makes me smile anyway, so Cynthia Pepper. And Cynthia, you represent an unsung part of the film industry. And that unsungness is because you make a lot of films with children and for children. And your production company, Xanadu Entertainment, with your partner, Melinda Darlington Bach, is unique in the sense that are you the only people who are producing children's films in this area?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. In this area.
In this area, as far as I know.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what brought you to it.
Well, we're both come from a dance background. Melinda is a ballet teacher, and I a contemporary dance teacher for many years, and we've known each other for 25. And about 10 years ago, I got an idea that Sesame Street needed more dance. So I thought it'd be great to send them some of my films, and hopefully that they would hire me to do more films for them. And lo and behold, they called me right back and said, sure, we do need dance. And so it got me in there through just, I watched Sesame Street and felt that they needed some dance films.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Good grabbing the opportunity.
Oh yeah, there was a need.
Well, I program the children's films for the Mill Valley Film Festival, and Cynthia's films have been in for like 5 years running now, I think. And not because I'm favoring her, it's just because her films are good. But you have one in this year, and it's called The Silk Road. And just before we talk anymore, I just want to take a look at a nice little 1-minute clip. So let's see if we can do that.
Animals played an essential part of the story for the Silk Road.
This kid's so great. So you're using your dance background, and you're using your fairly newfound film background. So tell me how you integrate it.
Well, for this particular film, my daughter came home in 3rd grade, and she told me she had a substitute teacher that day, and she didn't know if it was a man or woman. And I just thought that was fascinating because she loved the class, and they learned about the Silk Road. And I teach dance all over Marin County, and I have for 25 years, and I always use silk scarves as a way to get kids to dance. And everyone looks good dancing with a silk scarf. So except you. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to bring them both together. The fact that she didn't know if her sub was a man or woman, and that they were learning about the Silk Road, and somehow integrate the kids dancing with silk scarves. So I spent a year researching the Silk Road, the migration of all the wonderful things about China in 150 BCE, and I just thought it'd be interesting to bring it all together, and I hired professional actors to fill in the pieces, and I wrote this film, and somehow it all came together.
And the greatest actor was the teacher.
Oh yeah, who, by the way, just got hired on All My Children.
Is that right? But he's a man.
But as a man, exactly.
But he's in the film as a woman.
Yes.
Although, and he doesn't camp it up. He just does it, and it's so natural.
Well, he said it. We decided just to play it like just the words, just act, just do the part, and it was very challenging and wonderful for him. And he works for Marin Shakespeare, and he's their top actor there, one of the top actors.
I'm going to ask you a loaded question. Do you feel as though you get enough respect as a maker of children's films?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, people kind of smile like, "Oh, that's so cute," or "What is that?" They don't really understand how powerful they are and how important they are. And it's not, in the United States, it's not really appreciated as much as it is in Europe. And the reason I know that is the European children's films, as you know, are super high budgets. And then when you look at the credits, they're funded by governments and TV stations, thousands and thousands of, dollars or whatever they have over there to fund these films.
Yeah.
So we struggle and pull it all together. But they're so interesting. You can do so many things with animation. I hired an animator for mine, and you can integrate so many fun things that kids like to see on screen.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to have more festivals, and there's festivals all over for children's films, but the more that we do and the more it gets seen, the more it's appreciated.
It's appreciated, yeah.
And
yeah.
parents, as you know, love to bring their kids to foreign films, especially if they're like from Finland and there's Finnish children's films. They love to show their children what they had as a child in Finland, and they bring them there. And this is the kind of work that I was raised on, and that's kind of a fun thing to share that.
Yeah. So how much do you and Melinda work together?
Well, we are teaching classes on making children's films and producing them. So we work as teachers, and we're doing that. We've done that for you and the CFI, and we're doing children's classes for around the Bay Area. And then we've been doing some cooking shows for kids. In fact, Bravo called our last cooking show. Bravo called us. So we work, as much as we can. Whenever someone calls, we're there. And then we, like, for example, we choreographed the mountain play last summer.
Right.
So we do dance.
But you also do television commercials.
Oh yeah, we got called by a big bank last year, and we did all the casting and the choreography and helped with the music and the costuming. I mean, we can do it all. So because we've done everything. So I mean, we're not camera people or editors, but we know what we like, and we can help in every aspect.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think people will, see from that one little clip there, at how, I mean, the nice thing, I mean, you get color, you get movement, and you get really, good-looking kids, and the wonderful part about it is that it's calm. That aren't things blowing up all over the place. So, it's a great thing for parents. So I hope they come not only to the festival, but to come and see your film too. I'll say lastly that I really appreciate your work, and it's within the whole aspect of all children's film. It's great. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think I've heard that they're independent films, and that it's an opportunity to see some unusual films that we wouldn't see out there.
I just know that there's going to be films that we haven't usually seen before, and my wife and I like to go off of the mainstream to see what more of the independent films are doing these days.
I like the hometown touch it lends to it. I like seeing some stars visit us. I enjoy the films themselves.
Looks fantastic. We've got 3 kids, and so I've never had the opportunity to go, but I wish I had, because it looks like it's well run and interesting.
I like the independence. I like the type of films they bring in. It's not high commercial films. It gives an opportunity for a lot of filmmakers to show their work.
I love it because it brings in, just an excellent mix of excellent filmmakers from all different genres of film, and it's just an amazing time to come together and meet people that come to Mill Valley from around the world and enjoy great film.
I think it's exciting to see new films and to see how people are working and what they can present to us in all different ways and from all different countries.
Love it because we get to see films that we normally would never get to see. I love the documentaries, especially. Yeah, the documentaries, those are great.
The movies are really good, and it kind of brings a very interesting crowd to Mill Valley. We don't get too many movie stars here, so that's kind of exciting.
We're at the Raffel Film Center, and we're about to take a look at the critical establishment. The programming director for the Raffel is Richard Peterson, who's a really, really fine film scholar. And our publicity associate, Stella Nelson, is a veteran of television. They're going to match up.
Hi, I'm Stella. I'm Richard, and we're here to talk about not one movie, but 3 movies, which are the 3 movies, Swedish movies, that were made from these novels that have become a huge sensation all over the world. The author of the novels was Stieg Larsson, who died before even the first one was published. And they've come to be known as the Millennium Trilogy, although they're probably best known under the individual titles The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Played with Fire, and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. 2 of the movies have been released in the US thus far, and the 3rd one is just about to be released in October. I think it's showing at the Mill Valley Film Festival,
Yes.
and then we're opening it at the Raffel on October 29th. And the movies have all been released this year. They were all released last year in Sweden and Scandinavia. And they've sort of caught the wave of the popularity of the novels. These are very long novels. They're like 600, 700 pages apiece. And the movie adaptations, of course, have to cut something from them in order to, kind of tell the story, because, movies have to do that. They have to condense things. Now, I've read the books, and you've just seen the movies.
Correct. Now, first tell me, did you like the movie?
Well, I did like the movie. I think I liked the first one best, I think. I liked all of the movies, but I think the coup of the movies is probably the casting, which I think has been definitely most people react to it, that the casting of the main character, Lisbeth Salander, by the Swedish actress that no one had heard of before, Noomi Rapace,
Yes.
is a perfect casting.
She did a fabulous job.
Yeah, and Lisbeth Salander becomes, over the 3 novels, the main character, even though the journalist Mikael Blomkvist, who's played by the Swedish actor Mikael Nyqvist, starts out as the main character. But I think Stieg Larsson, before he was done with the 3 books, intended, I think he realized that Lisbeth was, this was a great character. She was abused in her youth, and there's lots of flashbacks in the movies to go along with the revelations that come up in the novels. And she's a very troubled character, but incredibly resourceful person and a genius. She's a computer hacker. Who is a genius, and she's just an original character to come up on the screen.
Yeah.
The movies are violent, there's violence, of course, in the novels.
Yeah, I've actually, I struggled with the violence in the novels. I'm going as far to say that I had a nightmare when I watched the original movie, which I absolutely would recommend, though, if you have a stomach for it. I think I did struggle with the fact that there were subtitles watching the film, in that you're reading so much of the time and you can't picture the people's faces, the characters that are so important. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh no, it does, and that's a challenge of watching subtitled movies. Although, selfishly, I would say, certainly subtitled movies are essential, because if you don't watch movies with subtitles, you're missing some of the greatest films ever made around the world,
Oh yeah, and I'm actually struggling with the American remake as well. I think that all 3 were fabulously done. I would say the first one was the best, but you get invested in the character, you want to see the rest.
It is interesting, and this American remake is interesting because there's been a lot of publicity about the casting, and they of course have American and British actors playing the main roles. I think David Fincher, the director, is going to shoot it in Stockholm, and it's shooting now, and it'll be released next year. And as it would be with filming these 3 movies, I'm sure it's probably going to be 6 years before they're all out. And it's interesting that the Swedish versions were done very quickly. They were all released in Scandinavia last year, and they're all being released in America this year. So people actually who have that desire, oh, I can't wait to see the next one, it hasn't been that long a wait. It's just been a few months between, you know, the releases of the different films. I mean, Girl with Played with Fire was in July, after the first one was released in March, and now the third is coming out in October. So it's interesting. Hollywood will not have that sort of instant gratification that we have with these. And I think it's you know, just back to the violence, which I think is very much a part of the books, and of course is depicted in the movies. And sometimes, obviously, there's a difference between reading something and seeing it portrayed in a movie, but to some extent it's necessary. It's the original title, actually, the Swedish title for the first book was not The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It was actually called Men Who Hate Women, which is sounds like a very uncomfortable title for, you know, a fiction thriller. But, you know, if you notice, the plot has to do with women who have been abused or victimized. And Lisbeth, throughout the three movies, is kind of an avenging angel.
Well, Lisbeth is a woman who hates men who hates women.
Yeah, oh, definitely. That's very, and she definitely makes good on her, you know.
She does.
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah. So it is like so even though the violence, and there is some violence depicted in the film. I mean, you know, for what it's worth, she does get back at these people. You know, that there is retribution paid in the stories.
So Dragon Tattoo actually, I think, had more of a little bit of a finesse in covering the violence. The second, Girl Who Played with Fire, was a little bit over the top for me. And then I think on the third, it actually brought it back down a little bit. But it was more covering what happens with her without revealing the plot line. So
yeah, in the second book, there's actually this character that comes up in the second book, which is, it'd be a spoiler for me to tell you who actually he is, how he's related to Lisbeth, but there's a bad guy who, he's a big, very strong man who feels no pain. And it very much reminded me of the James Bond movies. It's actually in the book where he's got something involved with his nervous system where he feels no pain. So it's, you know, he's almost impenetrable and impossible to kill or to hurt, you know. And it's interesting that even though these are very far removed from James Bond, that Daniel Craig has been cast to be Mikael Nyqvist. Yeah, I'm sorry, you know, Mikael Blomkvist. I'm sorry, getting my Mikaels mixed up. You know, in the American remake of the Swedish movie.
Well, you know, I read, I could be wrong, that the lead actress that was cast in the American version was actually injured during the taping, so they've stopped filming.
Yeah, I think that was like this morning's news or something, right? It was like very, very recent.
Very recently.
Yeah. Anyway, we would recommend all three films and recommend that you see the Swedish films.
It'll be in the Mill Valley Film Festival, October, and also opening at the Raffel.
On October 29th.
Thanks for watching.
So I'm sure you all heard about these two terrible movies, Dragon Ball Evolution, Avatar: Last Airbender. I can't believe I paid to watch that. But do you want to know why these two movies suck so badly? Simple. Because they didn't cast an Asian actor for an Asian character in an Asian movie. I just like saying Asian, okay? But the thing is, Hollywood doesn't get it. No. So you know what? I think Hollywood deserves a taste of their own medicine. Now imagine this. Superman, played by an Asian. If I can speak English, of course. Stay! How does he do this? Oh my God. Forget it. Oh, God, I hate these buttons. Yeah.
Our director went to Redwood High School. One of our editors, editorial consultant, Robert Dalvis from Marin. Plus Tom and I are from Marin. But Tom was going to direct it in the late 80s, and there was another recession at that time. So he put the project on the back shelf and went on to become a lawyer, and primarily entertainment lawyer. And then it sat there for a long time. So I did a documentary called Vertical Frontier that was in the festival in 2002. And after that had kind of run its festival circuit and we were getting it distributed, I needed a new project. And so I took on The River Wye.
My father made sure that I was given the proud, manly name of Augustine, and I was a fishing prodigy.
I like where there's a message that's not a banging you over the head dogmatic environmental message, but I like the subtleness of Vertical Frontier, which was, you know, the history of climbing in Yosemite and how the climbers really came to take care of the mountains and rocks that they climbed, and the same with River Wye. I think it kind of indirectly points at the beauty of the rivers. I mean, it's a beautifully shot film. Our DP was named Crash.
I noticed that.
Yeah. He won Best Cinematography Award at the Ashland Film Festival, so we were really happy about that. And I think it just makes people realize that these rivers are precious and we can appreciate their beauty, but we also need to protect them.
There's one beautiful scene, in fact, in the film that's, as you say, is the subtlety, and it's where he's rescuing that fish from that the drain and then taking the fish in a little plastic bucket over to the other side so it's free, and it's just so small, but it's a great environmental message.
Yeah. Well, it's the little actions that can make a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And of course his whole relationship with Eddie, the love relationship, is environmental in nature also, you know. I mean, she's an environmentalist, a very strong one.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And they both share a love of the rivers, and they share a love of fishing, and they come to share a love of each other.
Why don't you just recap, just for people watching, roughly what the story is?
Well, the story in a nutshell, and this will be a little bit more than the elevator pitch, is about a young guy who has been raised by these two very different parents. One is a very effete fly fisherman who's played by William Hurt. His mother, Ma, is a bait fisherwoman, very down to earth, also from Mill Valley, went to Tam High, and Kathleen Quinlan. And he kind of grows up trying to keep both of them happy, and in the process he also becomes this master fisherman, this sort of Mozart of fly fishing. And eventually, though, like all kids, it's time for him to leave home and go off on his own, which he does at a very dramatic moment. And he thinks that fishing is going to be what's going to be the thing that he wants in his life. That's all he ever wants to do. And then he realizes that there's more to life, and he better find out what that is. So without going into further detail, the rest of the film is about his journey of discovery of himself and other people.
Now, people will automatically hear that story and they'll think of A River Runs Through It, they'll think of the Sean Penn film,
Into the Wild.
But this has a real different texture from either of those films. It is more leisurely, it's a more old-fashioned film. In the sense that it has a lot of craft to it, which I congratulate all of you for.
Thank you.
Are you ready to fish?
Fish for what?
For happiness.
And where do you fish for that?
And what is your name?
Call me Gust. What's your name?
Eddie.
Attention to detail and the attention to the subtlety of some of the acting is really quite good.
I think Matt, our director, is absolutely terrific working with actors.
And let me ask you just a little bit about him, because in looking back on his filmography, it seems as though he does a lot of like horror films,
Genre
films. Yeah,
he has done a lot, and I think that this was a film that he felt that really, he loved the book. He'd read it on a similar quest for himself when he'd gone to Australia many years ago, and it's a story that meant a lot to him. And so I felt very lucky in having him direct this film, because he really got it, and he knew the subtleties of the book. He loved the book, and I think that becomes apparent when you watch the film.
Yeah. There's a kind of a side trip I just want to make for just a second, and that Miranda Bailey, who was your executive producer, also directed a film during the time you were shooting the film called Greenlit, about your attempt, a very valiant attempt, to make it a green set, a green film. Can you just say a little bit about that? And we're going to run a clip anyways.
Well, it was really important to me, considering the nature of the book, considering where we were shooting, to make the film as green as possible. And when you're on a small budget like ours, it is very tough. Miranda Bailey did a tremendous job directing the film, and she did it in a funny, quirky, informative way that really made Greenlit appealing to a broader audience. And I think it's having an effect on people that watch it. Because all of us, no matter what business we're in, can start to try to change our habits. And in our particular situation, what we were trying to do was still pretty new. It's a little more common now. But it was a process of education and a process of rebellion. And I just felt that it was something we really needed to do.
They're shooting it green.
What does that mean? They didn't understand a word of what I was saying.
I'm excited by the prospects of doing it green.
I am an environmental consultant.
We're trying to implement recycle, composting, elimination of bottled water.
This movie is not as fast-paced as a lot of other movies. There are not a lot of special effects. There's not any real violence. There's no shoot-'em-ups, car chases. It does flow like a river. And like a lot of rivers, they start small, and then they build. And the flow becomes stronger. And I think that was part of his vision of the film. And I think it works.
Yeah, I think it all works. And congratulations to you, and congratulations to Tom.
Thank you.
Three-dimensional movies. The idea isn't new. They first caught the attention of audiences more than 50 years ago. But the technology behind it today is, whether you're friend or foe, to its most recent surge in popularity, 3D is ready for a close-up. My name is Kay Ressler, and I'm in San Rafael sitting outside Kerner Studios, a company that has found its niche in the 3D market. CEO Eric Edmeades has a thing or two to say about both 3D's impact on the film industry and its potential staying power. We're here to talk with him today.
Kerner started its life off as a special effects house. That's what these buildings were. This was the home of Industrial Light and Magic for years, and this is where all the models and miniatures and pyrotechnics and stuff were done for special effects. So, you know, a lot of the movies that you see on the walls behind have had their magic added here, if you will. And about 4 years ago, the team, the physical effects team, separated from ILM and became its own company called Kerner Optical. And Kerner Optical continued to provide practical special effects to the film industry, and we still continue to provide them today. The digital world is taking over more and more, so there's less and less requirement for practical effects, so we've had to branch out and look for other areas to apply those skills. And luckily for us, one of the areas that we've been able to do that is in camera engineering. We've had a long history of engineering cameras and motion control systems and camera rigs and so on. And so the development of stereoscopic camera rigs came naturally to us, and so that's a big part of our focus right now. And of course, by stereoscopic, I mean 3D. Mm-hmm. Kerner as a company is only about 4 years old, but the buildings here have a lot of history, and that's because they used to be home to Industrial Light and Magic. When George made Star Wars, he started off in Van Nuys in California and decided for any number of reasons to come up here to Northern California. and he found this nice little unassuming property here on Kerner Boulevard, and ILM became home here. And it was kind of neat because, you know, with all the hype around Star Wars, he didn't want all these fans driving around looking for bits of R2-D2 in the bins and what have you. So he ended up putting up a door that said the Kerner Company, Optical Research and Development. And they continue to operate here, in a sense, as the Kerner Company throughout that time. Actually, to this day, if you go to Industrial Light and Magic and you go into their building, they have on the walls, they have all these really great posters and great movie props and what have you. But also, there is the original door that used to hang here that says the Kerner Company. Mm-hmm. Well, the 3D work here, probably, I'm not sure what the very first project was, but it started a couple of years back. The original Kerner Cam system was designed here about, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, and did pick up shots on Eric Brevig's and Charlotte Huggins' Journey to the Center of the Earth, which was one of the first high-quality 3D movies of the current 3D age, if you will. Mm-hmm. We also did some special effects work on Avatar, which involved using our stereoscopic rigs, and we've done a variety. We just did an NVIDIA commercial, and we've just done some other, commercial production like that. In fact, this weekend we're shooting some drift racing up in Sonoma, I just found out. So we've had some good experience with both broadcast, film production, and commercial production with our 3D systems. The Star Tours ride at Disney was originally a 2D ride and has recently been reopened as a 3D experience. I think they're calling it Star Tours 2. And the 3D live action elements were shot here on a Kerner Cam rig. Mm-hmm. So there are some cool things like that, but we've that happened years ago. We've never been allowed to talk about it, and now that it's been opened, that's changed. I guess 3D fits into the current film industry as a new medium for telling the story. And as a new medium, it's meeting certain amount of enthusiasm and also a certain amount of resistance. So I always like the quote Jack Warner said when they started talking about adding sound to silent movies. He said, well, who wants to hear actors speak anyway? Mm-hmm. At every juncture, at every technological change, there's a certain amount of enthusiasm and a certain amount of resistance. So when color came along, people loved the idea and some people hated the idea. When HD came along, some people jumped on right aboard. Some people said it wasn't worth doing. And now we're finding the same thing with 3D. My opinion is that 3D simply is another way of telling the story. The Kerner Cam systems were designed to be camera agnostic. So really any camera that can fit the footprint can be used, whether it's film or digital or any of the variety of normal cameras that are used in cinematic or broadcast production. Red cameras, for example, were exactly what were used on the Avatar work that we did here, red ones. And I know that we're currently in conversations with Red about getting configured to use their new red cameras as well. We also have Sony P1s and F23s, and we're right now in the lab. There are some Panavision cameras being set up on the rig. So the idea was to create a system that allowed the director to keep their sense of choice. What did they want to shoot with? Kerner has traditionally done a lot in the way of practical special effects. Practical effects, not computer-generated effects. I think what's more curious is how does 3D impact that? So in the world of special effects, there's been a move over the last several years to more and more digital effects and more digitally enhanced effects, CG or CGI, computer graphics. And obviously, our history has traditionally been with building practical things and blowing them up or crashing them and making them look very real without computers, and then maybe having that augmented with computers after the fact. I think filming in 3D impacts that a little bit, because it might be easy to render something in a computer graphics environment as a digital element. When you now start to shoot in 3D, I think 3D to a degree will expose the emptiness of that effect, whereas a practical effect wouldn't have that same level of emptiness. Let me put it another way. My 12-year-old boy is just terrified of zombies. I'm sorry if he's mad that I'm telling you this, but he doesn't like zombies. He doesn't like zombie movies, doesn't like zombie video games, does not like zombies. But he was able to sit through I Am Legend and not have a problem whatsoever. This is a movie that's full of zombie-like creatures. But the reason they didn't bother him is that they were CG. And he could tell they were CG. So to him, that's like a cartoon, and there's nothing scary about that. 3D will amplify that. So again, if that movie was in 3D, if he was watching it in 3D, those digital zombies would again still not be all that scary to him. But if they were physical and they're shot in 3D and all their depth and their texture and their weight is amplified by that 3D, it'll make them all the more scary. And let's be clear, kids go to those movies to get scared. So I think that shooting in stereo is going to bring back maybe a return, or at least not a complete return, but will will re-enliven some of the more practical movie making skills that we've seen out there. In the 50s, there were several hundred 3D movies made, most of which were profitable. What ultimately killed off 3D at that stage is that the technology wasn't there to deliver 3D in a consistent quality way for the consumers. It caused people eye strain and headaches and so on. There's a long list of reasons for why that is, but let's keep one of the simplest, is that you're using film. And so now you need 2 projectors to run 2 strands of film synchronized exactly so that the right eye and the left eye were getting exactly the same information. Even when they could get that synchronization right, the film still wiggles on its way down through the sprockets, and they could never synchronize that. So they were really restricted by physical limitations at that stage. The digital capability that's out there now changes that game completely. So the restrictions are gone. So first of all, the thing that killed off 3D the first time is gone, which suggests, to me at least, that it's here to stay. But I don't think it's so much that it's here to stay, it's that we need to understand that what kids are looking at, look, we're not the target market anymore. Younger people than us are going to choose what stays and what makes it in the entertainment world. And what we know is that the younger generation likes ever more immersive entertainment content. Ever more immersive games, ever more immersive experiences, game parks, theme parks, movies, and what have you. So 3D does that. It creates immersive content for people. One of the things that I've wanted to do since I got here really was transition the company into doing its own film production. You know, the team here has decades of experience of adding magic to other people's films and creating effects for other people's films and providing studio services to other people's films and television shows, but not applying those skills to creating our own content. And a couple of months back, I was approached by Dean Yurka, who's a visual effects artist at ILM, with a really great script that he wanted to direct. Now, he originally came to me with a proposal on us contributing some stage and equipment services to the film in exchange for some equity in the film. We've done stuff like that for local filmmakers before, so it seemed like a reasonable proposal. But as I got to understand the project and read the script, I really liked it. And I said to him, well, are you planning to shoot this in 3D? And he said no. Of course, the reason he wasn't was that getting a hold of 3D camera systems, getting a hold of a stereoscopic rig was not an easy thing to do. So I walked him back to camera engineering and showed him that we actually build them here. And he was pretty impressed. He was like a kid in a candy store. So then we started talking about 3D, and it turned out he'd done a whole lot of post-production work on Avatar, so he really understood 3D, both from the cinematographer perspective, but also from the post-production side. And so in the end, we decided to reach a co-production agreement to make the movie. We then found an investor and a co-producer in Shanghai Miracle Pictures in China. And so we're about to go into production on that, which is great. It's a great movie. It's got a sort of teen thriller edge to it. At first it feels a little bit like maybe it might be a typical teen thriller, and then it gets into some really interesting moral questions that aren't usually asked in these kind of movies. It's fun, it's entertaining. It's shot here in Northern California, in the Muir Woods, or actually in the Cascades, with all the big trees around, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be good for Marin, and it's going to be a great showcase of independent 3D production and the way it can be done.
It's a bird!
No, it's a plane!
It's a Chinese guy.
Cool! Where is it? Asian vision.
Dude, come on, man! What the heck? Sorry.
How is he?
Hey, where'd my driver go?
Hey!
Dude, it's just a Squirtle.
It's just a cookie. No! Do it, Lars!
My pleasure, Chinaman.
Oh, shit! Ah! How'd you like that? It didn't work, right? So Hollywood, if it doesn't work the other way around, it won't work the other way around. Yeah!
Hi, I'm Zoe Elton, Director of Programming for Mill Valley Film Festival. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope that you'll join us at the Film Festival, October the 7th through the 17th.